What is up, everybody? I hope you are having a fantastic evening. 49ers are in the playoffs. We got the Eagles matchup right around the corner. We can take that nasty taste out of our mouth. Forget about it. It's a regular season game. It's over now. We got to look forward to the Eagles, and the 49ers made a signing today. We got to talk about that as well. So we'll talk about those things plus more next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports. We are giving you our take down to the last second, and it's Tuesday, which means I got my guy, So Real, Sunil in the building. What's up, Sunil?
Man, we were so close. So close, Jesse, to predicting the future, and couldn't score a touchdown. So here we are. The sixth seed playing the defending Super Bowl champs in the first round. What a time to be alive, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Take over. Listen, brother, I'm glad you're worried about me making it over to the round table. I've ducked no smoke ever in my life. I will absolutely be there. Fortunately, that Seahawks hat's not in, so I don't have to wear it tonight. But it's coming. It'll be here tomorrow. I'll have to wear it on my show, unfortunately. And then I'm going to have to wear that stupid thing next Tuesday. Either way, it is what it is. We got some things to discuss here, though, Sunil. 49ers make a signing at the linebacker position, bringing in veteran Kazir White. Now, go over a couple things real quick with Kazir. He's been a little all over the place. Started his career with the Chargers, spent about 4 years there, did go to Philly for a year. Was with Arizona the previous 2 years, and then was on Tennessee this year. Only played in one game. Now, he's a good player, though. Twice, he's had actually 3 times in his career, he's gone over 100 total tackles. Last year, 137 tackles. He's not as old as you think. He's only 29 years old. He had 137 tackles last year, and then a few years prior with the Chargers, he also had 144 tackles. So he's a tackling machine a little bit. He did have an interception last year that happened to be against Brock Purdy in the 49ers, so they know him well. Off the ball linebacker. I think if anything, this signing shows that the 49ers have some real question marks at linebacker going into this playoff game. So I'll just ask you in totality, not necessarily just Kazir White by himself, but overall the linebacking core going into the playoffs, not exactly what you would expect. But what do you think about this linebacking core, and do you think that they can kind of piecemeal this thing together for the playoffs?
Yeah, well, if this was like 4 years ago, this linebacking core would be sick, right? Like, Kendricks, I think, was super impressive when he was over with Minnesota, right? He was with the Vikings.
Him and Anthony Barr, man, they were running mates over there. Yeah,
great, and Kendricks had similar, I would say a very, very poor man's Fred Warner, like had a knack for being where the ball was. I know as a linebacker, got a lot of interceptions. Look, I mean, next, this Sunday is a playoff game. No linebackers that were on this original 53-man roster are healthy right now. So to expect that guys that were able to be picked up late in the season, which both Kendricks is and obviously Kazir is, there's a reason why they weren't, on a team being able to help a team, make it to the playoffs or win games in the regular season. It's obviously a dire situation for the 49ers. They're getting guys that, obviously can ball in the sense in the past, but what do they have left in the tank? Thankfully, they don't need to, be capable of playing a 17-game season. We just need them for, 4, right? Can you put together 4 games? That'll take us to the Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. But, obviously it isn't ideal, Jesse. You can't sit here and be like, our linebacking situation is better. Like there's people that I'm seeing on Twitter is like, I actually think these are going to be a better linebacking deal. It's like, okay, if they were that great, they wouldn't be, sitting on a couch for half the season and then over half the season and then finally getting picked up, you know?
Yeah, it's not ideal, that's for sure. I will say though, both veterans, they certainly know how to play in this league. Kazir White, you're not even gonna have a full week to get him acclimated. I think they can piecemeal it together. It's not like the 49ers linebacking core without Fred Warner was like this amazing juggernaut anyways. But I don't expect it to be as good as it would be with Bethune, that's for sure. Bethune and Winters playing side by side. But I don't think it'll be that far off either. Like I think saying it'll be better is a bit rich, but I really genuinely don't think it'll be that horrible. This kind of reminds me last year. I think it was last year. The Dolphins were so injured going into the playoffs when they were getting ready to play the Chiefs. They picked up like 4 edge rushers off the streets because literally, like all 4 of their edge rushers that were on the roster got injured over the final 2 weeks of the season. And so they just went crazy and picked up every veteran edge rusher that was out there that had a big name. And ultimately, it wasn't enough. They didn't win or anything like that. That's kind of what I feel like the 49ers are doing here. It's like, you got a name, you've played in this league, come on in. We got you over here. Because it's not just that Winters was hurt and Bethune was hurt. You already got Nick Martin on injury reserve. Obviously, we know Fred Warner's done for the year. So it's just plethora of injuries at the linebacker position. And they got to bring in some bodies. And at least these are 2 guys that know how to play in this league. And we'll see how it goes. But it does make it really hard on Robert Saleh because how exotic can you be with the guys that are newer to the building? Now, Kendricks has been here for a few weeks. That's great. But White has not. And so it's really hard communication wise to just bring in a guy off the street if he's actually going to play some snaps and be like, all right, let's go exotic on defense. And these are your assignments. It's probably not going to work out that way. So if he does end up playing, then I got to imagine the 49ers on defense are going to be pretty vanilla. And we'll see how that plays out against the Eagles.
Yeah, well, let's be honest. Robert Saleh hasn't been that exotic these last 3-4 weeks anyway. So I don't think he's there's that. It's not just the linebackers. I mean, this whole defense is, I don't know if they have the capability of going that exotic, right? It's just, right now it's just the defense is there to try not to lose, right? Just don't be the reason why we lose. It's really up to the offense if how far this team goes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dylan says, "Where's the hat, bro?" Well, listen, I've got the hat. It's on its way. It'll be here tomorrow. But Brandon was very specific on this one type of hat that is no longer in production. We had to find it on eBay and way overpay for it. And so I'm at the mercy of eBay. I ordered it immediately after the game, and it won't be here till tomorrow. So I'm going to wear it next Tuesday on the show, roundtable, and then my next show here, I'll be wearing the hat because that's what I said I would do. So I'll be wearing the hat as soon as it comes in, and I got a show, and it might be a call-in show because there are no Eagles content creators that want the smoke apparently. So very, very, very hard to get a hold of Eagles content creators at this moment. So I will definitely be paying up. All right. We're going to go over the reasons why the 49ers can win this game or will win this game and the reasons why they won't win this game. We're going to start out positive, though, for you, Sunil, because I know you got the positive vibes in your heart. Why will the 49ers win this game against the Eagles, in your opinion?
The 49ers will only be able to win this game if they're able to put up 30-plus points, right? It has to be a big game for the exciting whites. And that means CMC, Kittle, Pearsall, and Brock Purdy, right? So if the exciting whites can have a huge game, then the 49ers will be able to win. Outside of that, I don't know. My money wouldn't be on the Niners.
90s Utah Jazz, eat your heart out. Okay,
Probably could have thrown juice in there too.
You got to throw juice in there for sure.
I got you.
I know Bolster is with them in spirit, though. You know what I mean? There we go. All right. I think that the 49ers do have a path to win this game here. One, they're going to have to be committed to the run game for sure. Regardless of how effective it is, you've got to get CMC in there. You got to get him probably at least 15 total carries, at least. Maybe Brian Robinson, you can get him some more as well. But you got to commit to the run game. You got to get play action going. And that's how you're going to get the offense. You get the offense moving again. You're going to get those dig routes behind the linebackers. Take advantage of that. That was something that didn't exist last week. You got to be able to sustain drives in one way or another, but you got to be able to run the football. I also am looking at the Eagles offense, and Jalen Hurts has been nothing short of really good come playoff football. So I
Mhm.
understand that there's another level to his game, that he likes to run the ball more. Once he gets to the playoffs, he averages about 9 carries a game. That's going to be tough to stop. But the 49ers did put together a blueprint a couple weeks ago. And in fact, they saw the same blueprint against them this last week with Brock Purdy, where you had a defense that wanted to keep Brock Purdy in the pocket and make him solely beat you with his arm, making him go through his reads. I think the 49ers can do the same thing with Jalen Hurts. And when they did it a couple years ago, Jalen Hurts had all the time in the world to make these throws. They just weren't allowing him to break containment. And it was nearly impossible for him to make any plays downfield. The Eagles got mollywopped in that game by the 49ers. And I think that that's something they certainly can duplicate again. See if Jalen Hurts has grown in that area. And as good as the Eagles defense is, they can be ran on. So I do see a path for CMC and the 49ers to be able to run the football with some consistency here. It's the passing game that I think could struggle. You definitely do not block either of their edge rushers with a tight end. All right. I know you brought one in this offseason. Hopefully you learned your lesson. We would like Brock Purdy to be able to keep his elbow. That's for sure. So don't do that. But yeah, other than that, I do. I think that the 49ers have a path. The Eagles certainly are not the same juggernauts that they've been in the past. Their offensive coordinator is nothing special. That offense has been held down 3 halves this year. They have had negative passing yards, which is an absurd stat. So, yeah, there is a path for the 49ers to win this game. I don't know that I
Yeah,
would pick them, but there is a
right.
path.
I think the one thing is you know this offense for the Eagles has struggled, right? So that bodes well for the 49ers. What they don't want to do is give them any type of momentum, right? To let Saquon get going, let Hurts's deep ball get going. Those are the types of things that I think can hurt the 49ers. Obviously the Eagles are defending Super Bowl champs. They still have a ton of talent on offense too, Jesse. Like they just haven't been playing well, but they're getting healthier on the offensive line. Lane Johnson's supposed to be back this game, which obviously is a huge piece for them. But ultimately, like I said, the defense isn't going to be what wins or loses this game. It's all on the offense's shoulder. And I'm a big Shanna stan, but reality is, I do think that against the Seahawks, there were avenues there that maybe Brock Purdy didn't necessarily catch on. But Kyle Shanahan has to be able to adjust. Kyle Shanahan has to have a master game plan that nobody could, like, Brock Purdy can't mess up, if that makes sense. Like that's how much better his offense needs to be than the Eagles, because the Eagles defense is really good. And I saw a stat on Twitter. I forgot. I wish I had who posted it, but Brock Purdy's record against top 10 defenses, and it's not very good. And the Eagles are a defense that, whether or not they rank there, they're a top 10 defense in my eyes, with a lot on the line for them, a lot of pride. I'm sure they want to defend their title. So we really got to see a great game. And if the 49ers win, it's going to be because this offense was able to put up a lot of points and was able to, control the game through, being able to just put make the Eagles offense have to score, which is something they haven't shown to be able to do on a consistent basis this season.
I'll give you the stat and I'll give credit. Rodney Heron at Rodney Heron on Twitter. He went through and did the work. Top 10 ranked passing defenses that Brock Purdy has faced. He's 10 and 11 against those defenses with 26 touchdowns and 19 interceptions in his career. So not great. Not great. So yeah, I agree with that. But there is a game plan in which you can keep Brock Purdy pretty safe here. And I don't know that they'll have to score 30. I will say that run game is what worries me with the Eagles. So I mean, we can roll right into it. Why the 49ers won't win. Um, I want to start. I've got a few things, but I'll give one and then I'll let you go. But the run
Sure.
game of the Eagles, I talked about it. Jalen Hurts averages 9 carries a game in the postseason. He's going to start to run the ball a lot more. He's a lot like Patrick Mahomes, where he just ticks it up come playoff time. He's going to start running the hell out of the ball. So you're going to add him to the run game with Saquon Barkley, who hasn't looked like himself coming off of the million carries last year, but he's still very explosive. He's had a couple carries where he's spun out of trouble and taken, 60, 50, 60 plus yard runs to the crib. So he's still a very explosive player. That offensive line, as you said, is finally fully healthy. Lane Johnson is going to practice for the first time this week since middle of November, essentially. Landon Dickerson was out for a while. He's a very good player. He's also back. So the offensive line is going to be at full strength. You got Saquon Barkley. You've got Jalen Hurts. And both of those guys got to rest this last week. They essentially treated it like it was their first round bye. They didn't care about what seed they got, whether they played the Packers or the 49ers. That was not a concern of theirs. They knew they were going to have a home game either way. They opted to rest their players in week 18. And we'll see how it plays out. But I got to imagine that Saquon Barkley in particular needed that rest, and that could really help their offense. So the run defense is going to really, really have their hands full this week. And we saw last week how much it struggled. Hopefully they can get it dialed in this week. That is a concern of mine. What else you got, Sunil?
Yeah, I mean, the 49ers, if they lose, is because they lost on first and third down and on offense. And what I mean by that is not being able to get 4+ yards on first down and, getting into those third and longs or not executing on third. The amount of times against Seattle that the defense did their job and the 49ers just went 3 and out was ultimately what was the detriment of the game. And this defense, we know, is on fumes, trying to keep it together. And if the offense can't help the defense out by sustaining long drives, by putting points up on the board, to me, it's not a scenario where the 49ers have that opportunity to win. Like, this defense isn't good enough to win the game like they have been in some of the past seasons. What they are going to be able to do is, potentially bend, not break, get the ball over to the offense. And if they can't, if they're no gains 2-3 yards on first down, and then third down they're just they're punting on fourth, it's going to be a long game for the 49ers, and ultimately one where they're one and done in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think what concerns me a little bit is I feel like the Eagles can duplicate a lot of what Seattle did last week on offense and defense. Really, I mean, Sam Darnold really wasn't asked to do much of anything last week. Just complete a couple quick short passes. You can say what you want about Jalen Hurts, but he can do that if you give him clear reads.
And Jalen Hurts doesn't turn the ball over, and that's what Sam Darnold was able to do, right? So those are the two things.
Right. So, can you run the ball and complete short passes? Yeah, they can duplicate that. And they got the offensive line to kind of road grade. And then they got a very good defense. It's not as good as Seattle's, in my opinion, but Vic Fangio will have those boys ready. And he certainly was watching film and was like, all right, we can take some things away. Now, hopefully the 49ers have Ricky Pearsall and Trent Williams back. That'll certainly help. I don't see a scenario where the 49ers get held to 3 by any means. I think that they will keep it a lot closer. But, yeah, those are things that definitely concern me coming into this week. And, let's just call a spade a spade. I mean, talent for talent, the Eagles have far more talent at this point in the season than the 49ers do. The 49ers are without Fred Warner. They're without Bosa. Kittle played, but he didn't look fully healthy. CMC, quite frankly, didn't look fully healthy. We'll see if Pearsall and Trent play, but if they do, you got to imagine they're not fully healthy. So talent for talent, the Eagles have more talent. Now, one thing I didn't mention, though, or we didn't mention when we were talking about why the 49ers will win this game is the coaching staff. Seattle has a really good coaching staff. Outside of the 49ers, top to bottom, I think that they might be the best coaching staff overall left. But the 49ers, I think might be the number one overall coaching staff. I mean, Brant Boyer's a hell of a special teams coordinator. We know that Robert Saleh and Kyle Shanahan are fantastic. So just top to bottom, coaching staff for coaching staff, the 49ers absolutely have the advantage over the Eagles, in my opinion, as well.
For sure. And that's why I said, it's up to Kyle Shanahan to put together a masterpiece of a game plan that that can adjust if Brock Purdy, because look, I don't think Brock Purdy played terrible against the Seahawks. He had zero time, you know what I mean? And so they have to get him, there was no bootlegs. There was no get him, into his comfort zone of using his athleticism and his movement. And I think that's where Kyle Shanahan can't let that happen in back-to-back weeks.
Absolutely. Niner Mafia says only fake fans pick against their team that they say they're a fan of and support. No. Listen, objective fans pick against their team. Now, if you're asked who you're rooting for and you say not your team, then that means you're not a fan of the team. But if you say, hey, I think that this team's better because you're being objective, there's nothing wrong with that. But listen, Niner Mafia, we already established on Sunday after the game that, despite paying to go to an NFC championship, despite having a channel for 4 years talking about the 49ers, despite thousands of dollars spent in memorabilia, despite my son's first outfit of his life being 49er gear, despite pictures of me wearing starter jackets when I was in middle school, 49ers gear, I'm a fake fan anyway, so it really doesn't matter. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's already been established. So, what are you going to do? All right, let's do some sleeper, man. Let's do some sleepers. So you get a 100% deposit match of up to $100 when you use promo code LSS. Link is pinned to the top of the description. And we got some playoff sleeper picks that we can make. You can also get a free $20 play without even making a deposit when you use that same promo code with sleeper. So let's do it, man. Christian McCaffrey, more or less, he's got to get in the end zone this week.
He's got to get the end zone. Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
We're taking the more there. I feel good about Saquon Barkley getting in though too, right? With both these running backs, you feel good or no? Are you saying less on this one?
Nah, he gets in the end zone. But no, actually, no, man. I don't think so because if he gets in the end zone, it's going to have to be
okay.
Can he break off a big one? Maybe, but I don't know.
Okay.
I wouldn't go less. I'd leave that blank. I think we could find a better.
Just leave it. Okay, you just don't feel good about it. You don't feel okay. That's fair. That's fair. Okay. What about Jalen Hurts on the interceptions? You talked about how he doesn't throw, or he doesn't have a lot of turnovers. The more is obviously a big play here. They agree he doesn't have a lot of turnovers. You think he throws one here? Gut feelings. It's okay. You go.
I don't feel
skip that one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, we got to pick at least one Eagles one here, so we can do. Let's go rushing yards real quick. Hold on, Jalen Hurts 30.5 rushing yards, more or less.
I say more.
Okay,
I think he's gonna. Mobile quarterbacks are the 49ers kryptonite.
For sure. Okay, so we got one in there. We got George Kittle on the anytime TD.
I think George Kittle gets in.
So that's at least 14 points you're counting on from this offense. Yes. I like it. Okay. What about more or less on the passing yards? Yes.
All through the exciting
whites. Perfect. More or less on the passing yards for Purdy, 235.5.
Oof. I'll let you pick this one, man. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm going to go less. I don't think he has to throw for a lot of yards to be efficient and for the 49ers to score. I think there's going to be a lot of running of the football. And then
what's the weather? Do you know what the weather is in Philly on Sunday?
And nothing crazy. Okay. Mild wind, but nothing insane. And then it's going to be like high 30s, low 40s, something like that. It's fine. There's a ton of rain and wind in the forecast for Saturday, but not really anything for Sunday. So you're not going to have to worry about that. I just don't think there's going to be I just look at it as a lot of dump offs for Brock trying to stay efficient. I can see a scenario where he gets in the end zone twice, but throws for like 178 yards and is like 75% completion type thing. You know what I mean?
Yep. Dink and
Okay,
dunk.
we're gonna submit that. Hey, there's nothing wrong with little dink and dunk as long as they win the playoff game. All right, we're gonna go with CMC more on the anytime TD. We're going George Kittle more on the anytime TD. We're going less on the passing yards for Brock at 235 and a half, and we're going more Jalen Hurts on 30 and a half rushing yards. We're putting 10 down to win 102. You can
Ooh,
tail us or you can fade us, but either way, use promo code LS. All
I
right,
feel
let's
good
get
about
back
that one,
into
man.
it.
I think we win.
I know. Okay, we've talked. I know. I feel good. If 10 times, man, that's pretty good. I'll take that. We've talked a lot about what would be a successful season, and it's one thing to talk about it throughout the course of the season as things are happening, but we're here now, right? And the 49ers season very well could end on Sunday in Philadelphia. And so the question becomes, if they do lose that game, was this season a success? Taking in everything that went into the season, a 12-win season, all the injuries, how the offseason went, just everything in totality. Would you look at this season as a success? Why or why not, Sunil?
So I think it's key because I think if you mention what you just mentioned in totality, you take in the injuries, you take in this, you take in that. Some people might lean to being like, yeah, it's successful. You lose two of your best players on the team and you still make it to 12 wins and get into the playoffs. That could be success for a lot of teams in the NFL. For this 49ers team with this regime that's been together this long, no, it's Super Bowl or bust. And the reality is, look, we're going to talk about it in the next segment, but the chances of this team coming back as is to rekindle whatever this season was happening to get to 12 wins is not realistic, right? Everybody's a year older. The coaching staff will not be the same. There's no the schedule is not going to be the same. Who knows who the receiving class, like, there's just so many question marks going into next season to act like there's something you could build off from this season to go into next season. So it's really this season, and that's all you can really bank on. Like, ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
Jesse, I look at it, and the more with how the business of the league goes and what you really see, it's really 1 year seasons. You know what I mean? Like last year the Chiefs were in the Super Bowl. This year they didn't even make the playoffs. Last year the Ravens were one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl. This year they didn't even make the playoffs. Like, Detroit was the team that everybody thought, this was going to be the next heavyweight in the NFC. Where are they? So, like, to act as if, year after year, you're just going to be able to get to this point or contend and all these types of things, I think is naive when you just see the reality of how these seasons turn out. And if they don't win a Super Bowl, there's no like participation trophies. There's no like, hey, it makes it okay because you did really well when people thought, the degree of difficulty increased. Ultimately, we're looking for a regime. We're looking for a team that could win a Super Bowl. And I still stick to it, man. Like, if this team doesn't win a Super Bowl this season, I don't think the front office is the same. I definitely don't think this coaching staff is the same. And ultimately, that's the way I feel. So if they don't win a Super Bowl, Jesse, this isn't just if they win this week and next week they lose, or they win this week and they get to the NFC Championship game and they lose. Like, nah, they don't win a Super Bowl, man. The season was a failure because that's what the expectations were at the beginning of the season.
Ooh, man. I much like 187, he says, I had us at 9-8 at the first round knockout. I had the 49ers at 10-7, so they've already exceeded my expectations there as far as the record goes. I did have them losing in the first round, so if that were to happen, then that would have still played out. Um, This one's tough, right? Because I do fully understand what you're saying. Like it should be Super Bowl or bust with this coaching staff, with the talent that is on the Niners entering the season. Um, I just I always looked at this year as like the stepping stone into the future. And there were a few things that I really wanted to see from this team. And it started in the offseason. Could you trim the fat of some of the salary? And they did absolutely that. I mean, they've got almost 100 million in dead cap money. It's insane. So they were able to take care of that. Could you get rid of some of the aging veterans and replace them with young guys? They did that. They had 35% roster turnover. And my big thing was this team had been a juggernaut for so long. They didn't know how to win by NFL standards. NFL games are not blowout games traditionally. They are very close, nail biter type games. And I thought this season you would see a lot of that because this team wasn't as talented as they had been in the past. They weren't going to just come in and out talent teams and out coach everybody and just be a juggernaut the way that they had been when they had been good. And so I wanted to see them in a lot of close games and I wanted to see them establish how to win in those tight games. And I think they did exactly that. So because of that, and really I'm looking at this season as a success when it pertains to what the future of this team, how they can benefit greatly because of the way this offseason and this season went. So my answer is based off of that, which I was always looking towards the future. But when you look at just this individual season, a first round exit, I totally understand what you're saying, would not be a success because the ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl. And we're now, what, 9 years into this regime? The fact that you haven't won a Super Bowl, you've had supremely talented teams. This would just be another year where you didn't get it done. And you got guys like CMC that may or may not be here next year, 30 years old if he does come back. He's already looking like he's slowing down a bit. Trent Williams will be like 38 at that point. George Kittle's 33 years old and banged up, and Warner's coming off a major injury, and Bosa's coming off a major injury. And, you don't know the core of this team. You don't know what the future is going to look like. You got a very tough schedule next year. So next year might actually be worse. It might actually be harder than it was this year, regardless of quote unquote health. So this season is the one that's in front of you. And so based off that, I understand where you're coming from. But, the what I laid out as a path to success, the 49ers have met those standards. So I would be a hypocrite right now if I said no, it wasn't a successful season based off of those things.
I mean, you said something on Twitter that really opened my eyes, and you kind of glossed over it right now. But when you look at the future, what's the core, right? What are the pieces that you're looking at and saying next year, 2 years from now, like, these are the people that we're building around. Just last year, you were saying, okay, Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk, at least those are two, all pro type players, potentially all pro type players. But now Ayuk's not there. So who's this receiver that we're banking on next year is going to be the guy that could be our bona fide wide receiver one? Our defense is supposed to get better. Well, how much better do people come off of ACL tears? Right. And our top two rushers, Nick Bosa and Mikel, are both coming off of catastrophic knee injuries. How good are they going to be next season? Are they going to be able to just jump in and all of a sudden be able to turn around this defense? Right. Like, what you're banking on is a lot of, if these players take a huge leap, and a lot of the 49ers knocking it out of the park on rookies that could come in and right away make a huge impact, both of which aren't what the 49ers do, right? They don't have these rookies that just come in and are sensational year after year after year. They have guys that come in and show a lot of promise. They have guys that come in and that could do their job, but that could sit there and carry a team. It has been the core that you've been able to build around. We don't know what Fred Warner is going to look like next season, right? Maybe it takes him time to ease back into playing football after not playing football for as long as he is. I definitely don't think Bosa is going to come back and just rattle off 15 plus, sacks and all of this type of stuff. Like, what are we looking forward to? So ultimately, you got to strike while the iron is hot, and this is as hot as it's been in a while, right? Last season they didn't make the playoffs. This season they're in the game, they're in the dance, and you have to take advantage of that. So for me, just making it to the dance isn't good enough for a coaching regime, a front office that have been given everything that they wanted and haven't given us a Super Bowl. You can't then say, in my opinion, just making it to the dance is enough. Like, I don't see how, unless, like, I can understand a rebuild when you've already gotten there and you've already won the Super Bowl. Now, okay, rebuild, but rebuild to what? What are you rebuilding towards? To do something that you've never done before? To me, that doesn't make sense, especially when you can't pinpoint and be like, this is our future. This is who we're hitching our wagon to. Like, a year more of CMC after all of the touches he's had. Is he going to be as explosive next season? I just rattled off all the injured players. We're just expecting them to come back and just play like lights out. I just don't see it, Jesse. So to me, it's like this is their best chance. So you have to take advantage of it.
Well, and I mean, let's just look at it for a second, and we're gonna have all off season to talk about it whenever that happens. Hopefully that's not this week, but I said this offseason that the 49ers wouldn't win another playoff game until earliest the 2027 season. So not this season or next season, 2 seasons from now, essentially. Because I saw a mini rebuild on the horizon. Now I could get proven wrong this Sunday, and that'll just be a bad take. But if they lose, I mean, I'm not confident that they're going to make the playoffs or win the playoffs next year. Seattle's a young team, man. Seattle's not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere at all. They're not losing a lot. They're a young team. They're a hungry team. They're very much 2019 version of us. They're not going anywhere. The Rams, despite Matthew Stafford, a young team with a great coach, they're not going anywhere. The 49ers have to play the AFC West and the NFC East next year. That's not going to be easy by any means. So next season's going to be tough. It'll be tough. Now, the 49ers are also hopefully going to get better, right? Like they're going to have free agency themselves. They're going to have the draft. But you're right. I mean, the tweet that I made was in 2 seasons, what is the core of this team when you see it 2 seasons from now? Because CMC is not going to be here in 2 seasons. Trent Williams is not going to be here in 2 seasons. George Kittle's going to be 34 years old. Warner's going to be like 31 years old. Bosa's going to be 30 years old, believe it or not. What is the core of this team? Ayuk's not here. Pearsall, who knows what the hell he is. The 49ers haven't drafted a true impact starter in quite some time. A guy who's like a star. Like, let's go to Seattle's drafts, right? Some of the guys they've drafted over the last few years. You got Witherspoon, bona fide playmaker, star. You've got JSN, bona fide playmaker, star. You've got who's Murphy, bona fide playmaker, star. You got the Rams. They've got Jared Verse and Fisk and Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua. Like bona fide play. Ferguson looks like he might be on his way. Bona fide playmakers and stars. Where are those guys for the 49ers? Where are their bona fide playmakers and stars? Now, that doesn't mean that they haven't drafted some good pieces. Pooney's been a nice little piece. Lenore's been a nice piece. And, maybe Renardo Green's a nice piece. And it looks like Alfred Collins and Upton Stout might be nice pieces. But what guy is a bona fide cornerstone piece and a star the way that those guys are? And those teams traditionally draft well. So what, are they going to go into this draft and outdraft us again? And then how much further are we behind the 8 ball? Nicky Manwari, I haven't even mentioned him. He looks like he's on his way to being a bona fide star and cornerstone piece. So yeah, these teams aren't going anywhere, and they continue to draft well. It's going to be really, really hard for the 49ers to keep pace because the last 4 years, the 49ers just haven't done great in the draft. They just haven't.
And when we were having our runs, Jesse, we were, right? When we were drafting George Kittle, when we were drafting Fred Warners, when we were drafting Debo's and Ayuk's and Hufungas, and, those are the players that made up this core. Hufanga wasn't part of the core, but I'm just saying, like, We were drafting bona fide studs, bona fide stars, which is why we were able to get to Super Bowls and things like that. Ever since a lot of people have left the front office and things, those changes have been made. Like you mentioned, we haven't drafted those bona fide stars, and um, to me, that's why if this 49ers doesn't win a Super Bowl this year, you have to look at making some changes in the front office, to me, because ultimately you can't continue to have your coach just make magic out of I don't even know what the saying is, but just make magic
Chicken
year after
salad out of
year.
chicken shit.
Yeah, like ultimately, and I'm not saying these players are like, I don't want to ever say it, but I'm just saying like this coach makes up for a lot of mistakes that I think this front office does, and
Mhm.
ultimately, I think that needs to change, because if you put Shanahan on any of these other teams, the rosters that you just mentioned, Jesse, I think you're looking at some really, really tough teams to beat.
Completely agree. Completely agree. Well, speaking of making it tougher, Robert Saleh has been a hot candidate already during this cycle. He hired new representation. He's got an interview set up with the Cardinals. Talked a lot with Mike from the roundtable about the Cardinals, and he loves himself some Robert Saleh. So I'm curious to see his take on this. Robert Saleh staying in the division. There's definitely some good defensive pieces over there. Good offensive pieces as well. They got to get a quarterback, and that's the hardest thing to do. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But ultimately, I thought there was not a big chance that Robert Saleh would be gone this offseason. However, I didn't expect 8 teams to have openings either.
Right.
Right now, I mean, the head coaching search is going to be a crazy one, and there's not a lot of amazing candidates out there. I mean, there's maybe 4 guys that really, truly I can think of that deserve jobs, and not including Robert Saleh. And so if that's the case, like Robert Saleh, just by sheer numbers, is probably going to end up with a spot if he's a hot candidate. So there's a good chance that Robert Saleh's gone too. Do you expect him to be hired? And where do you think the best fits are for him?
Yeah, I definitely think he gets hired. Obviously, the report came out that he hired new management. I don't think you do that just to renegotiate a defensive coordinator job, right?
No.
You're doing that because you want to be a head coach. Look, I think Salah has proven that he could go into a team and elevate the defense immediately.
Mm,
What he hasn't shown is necessarily the ability to elevate the offense immediately, or get the right quarterback, which is obviously a tough spot. To me, what there's a team out there, and the chat has been naming my number one team that has a quarterback in place, that if they can elevate that defense back to what they usually have been, um, they're back to Super Bowl contenders immediately. And to me, that's the Baltimore Ravens. So I
mm,
think that Salah is there. I mean, I off air we were talking about. I think Brian Flores would be a great pick for the Ravens as well. But I think I think Robert Salah with the Ravens would be an amazing fit for both sides, and I think the Ravens would be excited to have a guy like Robert Saleh, his energy, to just change a pace of what they've been used to there with Harbaugh, who has been a great coach, I think, who we think will get hired right away as well.
I'm just doing some counting here real quick. Hold on. 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 40 picks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, because there was a really good comment here, and I want to make sure that I bring it up here. Um, where is it at? Where is it at? Goodness sakes. Somebody basically brought up that the 49ers had drafted Kittle and Warner and all these other guys. Stop acting like they didn't draft good players, which is great. You know, that's a great thing to say. Um, but it's been 5 years. They've made 40 picks since drafting a dominant player. Now, if in the last 5 years that you want to say that Purdy falls into that mode, I'll give you that. But outside of that, 40 picks over 5 seasons, and none of those guys are bona fide stars. None of them. Outside of, if you want to say Brock Purdy, I'll give you that one, I guess. That's it. So the Kittles, the Warners, the Bosas, that's fantastic. But they haven't drafted well. I mean, acting like they've drafted well because they did early on in the regime. They had a couple late misses after flubbing up early picks. I don't know, man. I just if you guys are that confident in the draft because of something they did 5-6 years ago, then by all means. But the 49ers haven't drafted well. So I had to bring that up. But it looks like the chat agrees with you, Sunil, because they love Saleh with the Baltimore Ravens. But you had another coach with the Baltimore Ravens as well.
Yeah, I thought Brian Flores would be a good fit there as well. Similar reasons, but if I'm the Ravens, I'm going after Saleh over Flores because I do think that Saleh I think Saleh with a quarterback in place would be dangerous.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if Saleh wants to have a long-term job as a head coach, it would be ideal that he has a quarterback in place for sure. And I think him and Lamar would get along famously. So I think that's a perfect fit for him. We'll see where he ends up. I would also hate to see him in division with the Cardinals. Like that wouldn't be ideal just overall for the 49ers. So, there's that.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think he wants to take a job. If I'm him, I don't want to take a job where there's not a quarterback in place. Like he did that and it didn't work out well for him, right? So I think that he wants to, if he would want to go somewhere that has an established quarterback, where that offense has, and he'd be walking into it. If that's the position, he not only has a great quarterback, he has a great running back, which is right up his alley. Whatever offense coordinator he picks up from this Shanahan system would feast with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, listen, we're going to get out of here. I've got the NFC West roundtable that's supposed to be starting right now, actually. So those of you that are in the chat, there is 207 of you on YouTube. You're going to be redirected over to the NFC West roundtable. Come support the 49ers over there. We got some ish to be talking. And listen, I'm going to need some backup because the Seahawks fans are going to be out in full force this week. Sunil, appreciate you, as always, for the Tuesday show. Hopefully, we're talking next week, not because the season ended, but because the 49ers are continuing this run by beating the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll see how that plays out. Everybody in the chat, much love. Talk soon. Peace.